It helps you to break even on your marketing costs faster, because if you can take a customer and turn them into a repeat customer, or some percentage of your customers into repeat customers, and if you can do that faster and shorten the time window, then you're making more money off of one customer than you previously were. And so it increases the outputs of the system.
You are now listening to the Creative Juice podcast, brought to you by Entrepreneur.io.
What's up, Indies? Welcome back to Creative Juice. This is the podcast where we cover growing and monetizing your fan base and building a music career with marketing strategies that are working right now based on what we see every day inside of our music marketing agency and across our community of thousands of artists and bands. I hope you enjoy and subscribe. This is episode 366, and I'm your host, Jack McCarthy, and with me, as always, today is Circa. Cirque, what's up, my friend?
Not a whole lot, gang. Feeling pretty under the weather, but I'm here to pod.
I'm excited. I'm happy to have you. I'm sorry you're sick. I think that this will be a fun one, and by the end of it, hopefully you'll just be magically healed.
That would be sick.
Speaking of magic, let's kick this episode off. There's a famous, I'll call it famous, phrase in marketing, in business, and that phrase is, the fortune is in the follow-up. But in music, that might not make a whole lot of sense. You might not really understand what it means, or how it applies to you, or how it applies to your music career as an artist. And so we wanted to bring the topic of follow-up to the show today and give you some of our best practices as it relates to follow-up, automation, how you can follow up with your fans, and give you guys some of the go-to processes that we use for clients at our agency so that you can swipe them, steal them, and use them for yourself.
Yeah, that sounds like a good plan.
I think this is going to be insightful because there's definitely areas where I know artists are missing out on opportunities to follow up with their fans. I think there's also a lot of opportunity to supplement the things that you're already doing or amplify them and make them even stronger and better. We do a lot of this at the agency pretty much all day, every day. And so I'm excited to share some secrets with you guys and give you some things that you can steal and put into place right away. I think this is going to be a lot of fun. So let's get right into it. Let's talk about follow-up. There are so many different ways that you can follow up with your fans, so many different processes that you can put into place, and they all start with typically different kinds of triggering events, different actions that a fan might have taken. And so we're going to talk about these. They can apply to email marketing. They can also apply to text marketing. So think about them in both lights. We're kind of going to share the different triggers that can happen and what you can do to follow up with your fans. And we'll use different language for each of them, different words, different phrases, so that if you go and want to do a bit more deep research into this, you can. We'll kick it off with one of the most common follow-up processes that we install for artists at our agency, which you probably know a lot about, you've probably seen, you've probably experienced, but there might be some areas where you are maybe just not doing as much as you could, and that's abandoned cart, right? Abandoned cart is something that happens when someone goes to your store, they put something in their cart, they get ready to check out, and then for whatever reason, something distracts them, or they decide they want to wait, or they can't find their credit card, or their power goes out, and they go away. And what happens next?
It's pretty interesting because basically the laws that govern how we can email are called CAN spam, an act put in place to cut down on email spam. And it's funny because it affords this follow-up window after someone abandons a cart, whereby you can send what's known as essentially transactional email, meaning it's intended to promote a product or sell something, because it's related to an action they took. They went to your store, they filled up a cart, and then they left. And there's very real instances where people might have legitimately forgot. I would say that's even the majority of the case, is that they were gonna buy it, and then life just got in the way. And so this allows you to send, I believe it's up to 3 messages up to a certain time period after they abandon the cart. And how you actually craft those messages how you sequence them, what you do with that opportunity can matter a lot.
For sure, yeah. And it's funny, you mentioned can spam and transactional emails. Abandoned cart's happening before the transaction, right? Like before the transaction has actually occurred. So it's interesting that these little powerful email follow-ups are allowed. It's great. And it's really useful. And I think we can talk now about the sequencing of those messages and how you craft them, because I think this is where, while everybody pretty much knows, anyone who's ever shopped online probably knows about abandoned cart emails and has experienced them, the sequence by which you send them, I think, is really important. And this is where a lot of artists miss out, is you just plug in one and then you think you're done and you're good to go. The recommendation that I would make, and this is something that we do for most of our clients at the agency, is consider a process where when you're building an abandoned cart sequence, start with a cart reminder, just to remind them, hey, you left something in your cart. Maybe life got in the way. Would love for you to check this out. Thanks so much for supporting me. Here's a link to your cart. I saved it for you. Then, if they still haven't purchased, this is where it gets kind of crafty and you can extend it out. I would consider reaching out again after a delay and giving a discount and being like, hey, again, I wanted to reach out about your cart. I wanted to make sure you didn't miss out on whatever it is that you have in it. Also, would love to extend a new customer discount to you if you'd love to pick this up. See you later. Here's your cart. And then finally, one more, just reminding them of both of those messages and being like, hey, your cart's about to expire. The discount's about to expire. If you want to grab this, we're running low. I'll catch you later. Here's a link to your cart. Those extra steps are 9 times out of 10 what I see artists not doing.
And I mean, it's not like the craziest opportunity in the world. It's just like an incremental change that compounds over time. If you know anything about compounding, like, doesn't mean a lot today. In a year or 2 years, it means a lot. Especially if it's a feedback loop whereby like every purchase you get becomes budget to market more, which means you get more purchases. That's compounding interest.
For sure. Yeah, that's a really good point. And a lot of the stuff I think we're going to be talking about today create incremental change, incremental growth.
Yeah. If the amount that you can sell is not a function of your marketing budget, or if you sell more, it doesn't become more marketing budget, then this doesn't apply. But if both those things are true, if you put more marketing budget in and it causes more sales, and with those sales, you increase your marketing budget, as long as you do those two things, you benefit from compounding interest, whereby every little incremental change you can make to the amount your sales rate will have exponential effects on your growth.
I'm glad you said that, because really that's kind of the core message of the idiom, like the fortune is in the follow-up,
Yeah.
It really is. And now we're just kind of applying it digitally here, I think.
And that's why it's always sort of seemed it's been a misnomer or a non sequitur for us when people ask, well, what should my marketing budget be? Or, like in digital marketing, when you start learning digital marketing, you kind of get this epiphany that occurs at some point where it's like, oh, if I have a system whereby I put in $1 and I get out 2, then there is no such thing as a marketing budget.
Yeah.
Because it would be ridiculous to say, I'm only going to put in 100 to that system. I'm only going to put in 1,000. No, I will put in as much as I can. And when I get back the double, I will put in as much of that as I can to grow it as quickly as I can while the system continues churning out $2 for every $1 in. So early on in my naivete and my like sort of early enthusiasm for digital marketing, I kind of like completely negated the idea of a marketing budget, because I was like, no, dude, build a system, test the system at low budgets. And if it works, you're scaling it until it stops doing that thing. And it doesn't, dude, mortgage your house, get more money. Like, who cares? Like, you have a system that pumps out $2. You have a little golden goose, so to speak. So you want it to lay as many eggs as possible. I understand now in my sort of older wisdom that there's nuance to that conversation, but I think the axiom remains true, is that it is sort of ridiculous to have a marketing budget once you have that system. And your goal should be to get to that system. It's never as straightforward as, especially with artists, like that system can take months for that $1 in to come out as $2. And it's not so easily trackable, which is why we've switched to a method of let's track growth week to week and make changes very slowly. Because it might be the case that you're looking at a 6-month window whereby that $1 becomes $2. But even still, once you have established that, it's like, well, I'm going to keep increasing that budget until something doesn't work. And that's why we have this compounding interest. The more you can do to raise your sales rate, if you end up with that system, you're going to be very glad you did that. Any incremental amount.
Well, it's interesting you bring up the concept of marketing budgets and in music in particular, because I think when I have conversations around this and the topic comes up and it's, well, our budget is this. And you can point to, well, you already have a machine that's making you more than your budget. So why are you constraining your budget to, X dollar amount, right? The nuance comes into what are you deciding to reinvest that money into? And so often it's not more sales, or at least when I'm having conversations, the process of reinvesting back into marketing and sales isn't always the first thing that artists and their teams think about.
Yeah, it's not. It's also the case that artists will raise a marketing budget and then go out to the marketplace of like ideas and providers that could help them market their, it's usually around an album. They're going to release an album or an EP or a single. And they have said, I saved up X amount for my marketing budget. And the real goal with that budget is like they don't have a defined goal. It's if this budget can get me world famous, let's do that. And if it can get me whatever it can get me, just please, for the love of God, like don't let me waste another $1,000.
Let it get me something. I don't care what the something is, but it has to be something.
Yeah. I think the concept of a business by which like it's a feedback loop where like you put in marketing budget and you get out revenue, and your revenue is typically larger than the budget. And so you're just constantly feeding it back in on itself. And when there's an opportunity to scale, meaning I'll increase whatever the input is, it might be ad budget, like you're putting it into ads, or you're putting it into content, or whatever you're putting it into that gets you that result. Like you can either scale that up and spend more on that, or you can start spending additional revenue you get, not increasing the budget of your ads, but increasing or adding more ads, right? It might be I'll add Google ads, I'll add, YouTube ads, whatever it is.
Right.
That's horizontal scaling versus just increasing budget on the same thing that you inputted in it initially. That's vertical scaling. And so I think artists are not conditioned to think about their business like that.
Right.
You should really be thinking about, if I get an excess, how am I going to spend it? Can I vertically scale without breaking anything? Okay, great. If I get $2 back, next time I'm putting $2 in for every $1 I put in this time, that kind of thing. Artists don't think about it like that. They think if by some miracle I got a profit, after 6 months, I have more money from revenue than I put in marketing and expenses. That's a win for me. I'm going to walk away and maybe start thinking about what's my next move.
So it's a win for me and I'm going to walk away and ruin it.
Yeah. Versus I know when I get that money back, I'm putting it back in where it came from. I'm letting it feed back into the system. They're not conditioned to think like that. Most artists do not think like that. And so it's a way different kind of setup than most businesses, where it's like, initially, let's set up a product and a system for providing that product, and then a system for selling. And then let's test that system for selling. And if it works, if it gets us more money out than we put in, even if that's on a 6-month time frame, because in 30 days, like 30 days from when we put it in, it might not come out more.
Right.
If in 6 months, that same money we put in becomes more in revenue and we can attribute it back, then it's like, okay, we have a 6-month window. So every dollar we put in, we wait 6 months, we get this much back out. Okay, great. Let's scale. Let's raise money to put in more and not have to wait 6 months. Let's figure out ways we can scale now. And they're trying to increase that. That's really what it is. And the system itself and the product and the way it's delivered is static. It's a lot more static than it is for artists. If I have a carpet cleaning business and I get yellow page ads, or I get, banner ads, or I get Google local ads, right? And the money I spend on ads gets me more business than it costs to fulfill the business plus the ad costs in 6 months. After that 6 months, I'm taking it and I'm increasing my Google ads budget.
Right.
increasing, finding more places I could put that budget if increasing stops working, that kind of thing. And how I clean carpets and how I fulfill that service and the actual like the ads themselves, they largely don't have to change. The budget can change. And so that's a concept that really opens up why I would care about, oh, I got a 5% bump on my sales rate. It's like, well, that actually matters a lot, because after a year, if you're on like a 3-month cycle, that becomes, what is it, like 20% increase in sales or something like that. More than that, actually. It's like more like 30%. So it's really important, but it's only important insofar as you as an artist start to think about your business as a machine that you put budget into and you get revenue back out of.
You know, it's good that we started this conversation around marketing budgets and marketing and sales and client acquisition or customer acquisition and revenue and profit now, because it applies nicely to the next follow-up mechanism that I was going to bring to the show, which is post-purchase follow-ups, right? We've talked about abandoned cart. That's pre-purchase follow-up, right? Getting them to make the sale. It's one pre-purchase follow-up. Now we can talk about post-purchase. What happens after someone buys? We refer to these as A series, Ascension series, or win-backs sometimes, customer win-backs. And what those look to do is that when someone buys from you, either for the first time or the second time, third time, whatever time they buy from you, how do you follow up with them to reach out, thank them, get them excited about what they just bought, and give them an opportunity to buy something else or buy something again? And we always install these for our clients at IndieX. And this is another input into the machine that works to get you revenue and really profit faster. It helps you to break even on your marketing costs faster, because if you can take a customer and turn them into a repeat customer, or some percentage of your customers into repeat customers, and if you can do that faster and shorten the time window, then you're making more money off of one customer than you previously were. And so it increases the outputs of the system.
So yeah, that type of follow-up is actually very important, because while an abandoned cart might get you a 15% rescue rate on abandoned carts, well, if the amount of abandoned carts you get compared to your actual sales, people who don't abandon, is 10% of them, 10% of the people who make it to the checkout abandoned cart, let's say it's 50%. Okay. So you got 100 people coming to your checkout, 50 of them leave. Let's say you get a great abandoned cart rescue rate, which is, of those 50% who leave, those 50 people, 15% come back, which means about 7-8 people, 7-8 sales you rescue per 50 that you make. Okay, well, it's actually a significant increase. That'd be like 50 people did make it through the cart, and then an additional 8 people came back. Okay, well, that's over 10%. It's good. But if you can resell 25 of those people, let's say your rescue rate for win-backs or for Ascension, right? Like after they buy, you are reselling, let's say 20% of them. That's actually more meaningful, because you're getting an additional purchase on top of it. Their LTV, their average lifetime value, increases. And that happens for the whole cohort. So now what it actually does for you is it tells you, okay, well, let's say I got 50 people in the door. Let's say I spent $100 in marketing budget. I got 50 people to get to buy, right? 50 sales. And that represented, let's say after costs and everything, since it's first purchase and you don't make much money on it, let's say you got after cost 50 people. Let's say I have $250 now, right? And each customer you got is worth $5 in lifetime value. It means you can spend $5 to get a customer and not go broke. You can do that reliably. Okay, well, if you resell, let's say 15 of them, or let's say you resell 7 of them, right? And they each now, because it's a second purchase, you're not paying the marketing costs again, really. You already have them as a customer, and you can just email them to follow up. Okay, well, now you're getting a second purchase that's typically larger in revenue. Let's say the average is $20. Okay, well, 20 times 7, now it's 140 on top of the 250. So that's 390. So we divide that by 50, and now everyone's value has gone up a fair amount. Like it's closer to $10 now. And now you know you can spend that much more to get them.
Right.
And that changes things significantly. So it's a little bit more significant of an increase. And it's more important, I would say, even than cart abandon, is to try to get a good second purchase rate. And for artists, it can be really hard depending on the campaigns you're running to get the initial sale, but it's so worth it because it changes the dynamics. For us at Indepreneur, right? Our currently running ads, what do we put, like a $100 a day budget?
Yep.
And we let it rip and we got some sales. I would say our 30-day, it was questionable if after 30 days we were profitable slightly or slightly losing money. But we know that the average customer at Indepreneur stays. They don't leave after 1 month. They stick around. They do more stuff. And so they're actually worth more than that 30-day value on average. So we're not panicking. We're not shutting off campaigns. We're not worrying if it's going to go negative because we know after 6 months, if we just wait, this ad spend is profitable and we're not going to have to shut our doors tomorrow, right?
Right. Yeah.
It changes everything.
And it's worth saying here that like many businesses around the world operate like this, where they're not worrying about breaking even or making a massive profit on their first customer acquisition. That's very common.
And some of them might be thinking about, I don't even care about 6 months. Tell me 2 years.
Right.
So I'm willing, because they have a little bit of cash set aside, because they're like, average daily revenue is enough to sustain like what they're spending. They're like, I'm fine with waiting 2 years to make the money because I know it's coming. My math, my numbers tell me that. And so that's why these rates matter. It's every single form of follow-up manifests as like a rate of increase to either my sales rate or my average lifetime value of a customer. And that changes the dynamics of the decisions I make today about how to advertise, how to market. So as an artist, if you know, look, this is messy. Customers and fans take many different paths. I just know the averages. And I know the averages over long time scales, which means they're incredibly reliable. And I know after a year, as long as I'm spending under $10 to get this fan to become a customer, that I'm not going to go broke. I'll make it back. Even if I have to stop spending money at month 9 and wait 3 months for it to come back, I know it's coming back. So I'm not as worried as I make decisions. And that changes everything. It makes you more confident in the decisions you make as a business owner. It allows you to take bigger risks and it allows you to not do things that really shoot you in the foot, like panicking and shutting off ad campaigns that are actually working.
Right, right. Here's a point to hammer this home. I think this is an interesting one. Let's take Starbucks, for example, right? Starbucks sells coffee. You're probably spending, someone who goes into Starbucks for the very first time, probably spending less than $10. Maybe not these days, but probably spending less than $10. Starbucks customer LTV is over $14,000. Isn't that wild?
Yeah. They're happy waiting 10 years to collect that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you can start to think this way, it opens up so many new doors into how you can market, into what you can sell, into how you reach your fans, how you sell to them. And so you might be wondering now, okay, I understand the theory that you guys are talking about, but what do I say when it comes to these post-purchase, these win-backs, or these A series that you're talking about? Here are two that I like to recommend that people put into place. Number one is a simple Ascension series. What you should do is when someone buys from you, especially for the first time, put in a follow-up sequence. This can be an email. You also could do it with text. You could get pretty creative, but thank them. Make that the first thing that happens. Obviously, you should have a thank you email or text that goes out thanking your fan for supporting you and for picking up the thing that they picked up. And then this one is like a sleeper. I love this. Send out, after they get their package, send out a user-generated content request. So be like, hey, did you get the thing that I sent you? How do you like it? Would you take a picture of it? I'd love to shout you out. And you could shout them out on your social media. You could shout them out in your email. Man, you could, if you have a community of some kind, you could shout out your fans and customers there, kind of do like a Hall of Fame sort of thing. Make them feel good about what they bought. Make them feel special. That's like surprise and delight kind of stuff. And then after the fact, wait a little bit longer, offer them another product, something relevant to what they already purchased. This is like the Ascension offer, might be more expensive. So set a delay and then follow up with them again with something else. Since you liked this, I think you might dig this. Since you liked what you purchased, what would you think about this if I gave it to you early access before anybody else gets it? It's a secret. You can create all kinds of cool offers around how you follow up with your fans and what you actually offer them. So that's like your basic thank you Ascension series. And then what you can do as far as a win back then is win backs are typically like, how do I keep somebody buying from me if they haven't purchased over, over the initial, say, 30, 45 days after their first purchase or their last purchase? And what I would recommend doing here is bolting on to your Ascension series a filter where, wait for 45 days and then set up a filter that says, did this person buy again since they entered this sequence or this automation? Did they buy again? If they didn't, then hit them with another email and say, hey, it's been a while. I've got some new stuff. This is what's been going on in my world. Would you like to check it out? I've got some new merch, potentially offer a discount. Do something to reignite them, re-engage them, and get them potentially buying from you again. So it gives you more at-bats to turn a customer into a repeat customer.
Yeah. You can really divide these into two categories, especially after first purchase. Is what you're trying to do is you're trying to handhold them up to the moment of delivery. So you're handholding them up until their product gets delivered. That usually manifests as like initial confirmation email right after they buy, telling them what to expect. You want to set expectations early on. And then a second email between when they buy and when their average package delivery is for someone buying like a physical product from you. Second email just to check in and deliver more than you promised.
Yep.
Extra value. And what that does is it gets them excited because I just bought from you. I haven't even got my product yet. And already you're over delivering on an under promise. So you under promise me because you already plan to deliver this value. And now I know as a customer, what I can expect when I transact with you is more value than I bargained for.
Right.
And that's a good expectation to set. It's a good dynamic to set up. You're really topping up like the goodwill vaults. Like you're not purely extractive. So try to, set aside tracks, set aside content, set aside something that you can give as extra value after that like initial post-purchase like confirmation email. And what you want to do is if you're just starting out, you want to start to get a sense of how long does it take for packages to reach my customers on average. This can be done as complex as dynamic, where it's like, oh, if they're outside of my country, I'm going to apply this like cadence to my follow-up email. And if they're inside, but you don't have to do all that. You can just take an average. It's fine. And what you want around when they're supposed to be getting their package based on that average, you want to send, hey, did you get it? Here's where it is. Here's a link to your tracking, like anything you can do there. And then just like Jack said, after they get it, you want to do UGC, because what that does is it actually has a psychological effect. One, it gives you social proof of your fans buying your stuff and then showing it to the world to kind of tell people who might be on your sales page to make their first purchase, hey, this isn't a crazy thing you're doing. People do it.
It's the closest thing to like a review that an artist might get sometimes, because like your fans might not go and leave a review for your t-shirts. It's a bit different than someone buying, I don't know.
It's an endorsement.
Yeah, it's not quite like someone buying pool cleaner on Amazon.
Yeah, there's two types of endorsements. There's authority and there's social proof. Social proof is like regular folks. Authority is like authority figures. It might be someone famous. It might be a review site or something like that. Some magazine that reviews whatever, or an authoritative figure, someone who's already like popular or something like that. But social proof is just as important. And this is a form of social proof. So it does benefit you in that way. But what it also does is what did someone do if they send you a picture of them in the t-shirt they just bought? Well, they complied with your requests. So that sets a behavioral pattern of you buy from me, you take the leap, I give you bonus value, I deliver on what you asked for, and then you do something for me again. So now we have this call and response going on.
Right.
And that sets a psychological subconscious behavioral pattern of like, when you do the call and response with me, you get more than you ask for. You benefit.
You get more than you give. Yeah.
So it's a good thing to do. Do this dance with me. on into forever.
Right. It's so romantic.
It's a good standard to set up. And then once you get that, so now you're establishing a behavioral pattern, you're giving yourself some social proof that's useful to you in your marketing, increases your sales rate over time. And then you are providing them with a discount, an opportunity to do the dance again, a unique opportunity, one they have to act on probably sometime in the near future. There's a time vector over it. It's like, this does expire. So you have an opportunity to do the dance with me again at a lower cost than you normally would have to. You benefit even more. And we just proved that the dance is like beneficial. That's the perfect setup. So that's what a post-purchase follow-up looks like. It's also, if you can extract away all the specifics about you just bought something, I'm shipping it to you, extract away all those specifics and just say, we want to confirm the action you just took. We want to reinforce the action you just took by giving you more than you bargained for, more value. And then we want to simulate a call and response, simulate a very light ask. Okay. Very light ask after we fulfill the initial ask. And you can now abstract that over to what we call an engagement series, where it's like, this is based on not a first purchase, but a first sign up for one-to-one communication. So someone signs up for your email list, e-series. That's the next one. That's the next follow-up. And what do we do there? We reinforce what you just did. Hey, good job. Thank you. Confirmation. You're signed up. Deliver on the value that we promised.
Right. Here's the thing that you signed up for.
Here's the thing you signed up for. And then a few days after, bonus value. We over deliver. And then a few days after that, let's do the dance again. Light first purchase offer, barely any money you have to spend to become a customer.
Yeah. Engagement series are, and I'm glad that you transitioned to this one, because this is a question that I think a lot of artists ask when they hear about follow-ups, and they're like, well, I don't have customers yet. Like, I'm just trying to start building up my fan base.
Let's fix that.
I'm just trying to get subscribers. I'm just trying to get people signing up for my list. And an engagement series, an e-series, is such a powerful follow-up method that's missed out on, because so often, what you often see is sign up for this thing, you get the thing in an email, and then nothing happens. And the list.
For artists, it's more like, sign up for my email list, there is no thing.
Yeah, or sign up for my email list, and you'll also get my record labels emails.
Yeah, it's negative value.
Yeah, it's not great. And so an engagement series, what you can do with that is, here, I'll give it to you in a format that you might be able to put into place. If you're touring right now, or you've got a tour coming up, or you're planning a string of shows, and you're using that to get people to sign up for your list. Maybe the offer for getting them to sign up is, hey, get early access to my tour dates, or let me know if you want me to come to your town, something like that. What the e-series might look like is, you confirm that they signed up, you deliver upon the thing that they asked for. So maybe that's, hey, I got your note that you want me to come to town. That's amazing. Here's the tour dates that are coming up. I'll keep you in the loop. Hey, I'm going to send you something tomorrow that I haven't shown anyone else in the fan base. I reserved this just for people who signed up for letting me know about this upcoming tour and if they want to see me. So keep your eyes on your inbox. And then the next day or 2 days later, or whatever delay you want to send, you can send them bonus content. That might look like exclusive video from your last tour that you haven't released. Maybe you got some pro shot video done and it looks really good and you haven't put it out there. This would be a great place to deliver something like that. Then the following email might be a teaser about the upcoming tour. And then a light offer might be early access to tour merch. And this is how you move people from subscribers to customers in kind of a programmatic way via automated follow-ups.
Yeah. It's also the case that, like, there's Jack snuck a little bit of behavioral pattern in there, where in that first email, he opened a loop. Hey, look out for my email coming up, because I'm going to give you this bonus value. So what that does is it says, one, look out for my emails. Just look out for them, because, like, you never know. There might be something in there for you that's no cost to you. It's just free value. Insofar as you signed up for my email list, like, we know you dig like my content. Otherwise, you wouldn't have done that. So therefore, content that you can't get otherwise is value. We know by exclusion. You're here. You wouldn't be here if additional content you can't get anywhere else from me wasn't value. It would be very weird if you signed up and that wasn't the case.
I think artists inherently know this, right? You guys know this. You withhold content all the time from your fans, or at least you want to create exclusive stuff for people. And so often artists just don't know the right medium to deliver that. They're like, oh, I have to have a membership to do it, or there has to be something that people are paying for to get it. What we're saying here is reserve some of that for people who just get onto your email list.
Yeah.
Reserve that for your customers.
Most artists are not very familiar with conditional logic as it pertains to messaging, because most artists are talking to everyone in their audience the exact same, and people who are not in their audience the same. Meaning they can't craft any message that's just for, that would only be appropriate for the people who just signed up, because they don't think like that, and they're not segmenting, and they're not crafting messages for different types of fans. They have to talk to everyone the same, because all their messaging happens on like Instagram stories and TikTok.
Right.
So I understand if this is like sort of a new concept, and that's kind of why we're drilling it, is like, you need to know who you're talking to when you craft a message, and you need to exclude possibilities based on likelihood. So it's like, well, I'm talking to people who just signed up for my tour like request. What is that person? What can I assume about them? Well, I can assume that they like what I'm doing, right? So I can now treat certain categories of things as value to them that I wouldn't if I'm on TikTok and I can't be certain that the person that I'm talking to even knows who I am.
Right.
So you can make these assumptions based on that conditional behavioral logic. So that's just helpful, because it allows you to start doing this work of segmenting out your messaging and talking to people differently, which is like the superpower of marketing digitally, is you can know these things, and it changes the game for you. So just to say that, like, what Jack did there was opening a loop, which is common in follow-up and very important for all your emailing, even if it's not follow-up, even if it's you're just sending a regular email to your email list. You shouldn't leave an email without some unresolved narrative. So what Jack did is he opened a loop. Opening a loop means here is the beginning of a story. The story is, you signed up for my email list and I'm delivering extra value. I haven't delivered the extra value yet. You just know that I am going to. And what that does is it's a tension. It's a tension that naturally needs to resolve in your brain.
You're flirting with your audience.
Right. Like in your brain, you want to resolve that tension. Human brains don't like unresolved narratives. They like to resolve every narrative. So when you open an unresolved narrative in an email, it increases the open rate for your next email. It increases the likelihood that people are going to read it and click on the links in it. Scientifically, it does that. There's studies for it.
And isn't that what we all want, right? You want to build a list. You want to build a bunch of people, a fan base that actually pays attention to what you have to say.
Yeah. And you can do this opening of loops everywhere, kind of. You can do it from the beginning of a web page to the end of it. You can do it from the beginning of a web page to another web page that they have to click through to get to. You can do it in tons of different places. It increases follow through of that sequence. And you can thread loops. You could say, email 1, I'm opening a loop. Email 2, I'm opening another loop and not resolving the first. Email 3, I'm resolving loop 1, opening loop 3, and not resolving loop 2, right? You can thread them.
Dude, here's a great example of how it could go beyond just your emails or your text, right? You mentioned a website. Imagine on your opt-in page, right, for this tour campaign that you're running to get people onto your email list. On the page, when people are signing up, where they drop their name, number, email, you could include just a little bit of copy that says, by the way, on the next page, I'm going to let you know how to get access to something that I saved just for fans who signed up for this from my last tour. So make sure you check out the next page. Then on the next page, the confirmation page after they sign up, it's like, cool, I got you locked in. I'm so psyched that you actually want me to come to your city. That's really amazing and means a lot to me as we're growing this thing. Check your email that I just sent you, because I'm going to be letting you know about the secret gift that I told you about just a second ago from my last tour. Make sure you check the email because it's really important. And then that first email opens the loop and it says, hey, I got you here. Thanks so much. Tomorrow, I'm going to be sending you this thing. It's just building and building upon the tension.
Yeah. You can weave this in such a way that you're never not in an open loop with someone you're talking to. And you can do it from any sort of source. So it's a good habit to have. Conditional logic, understanding, hey, based on where this message is occurring, here's what I can assume about who I'm talking to. And here's the superpowers, the advantages that gives me over just talking to everyone like they might be a stranger. And then using that superpower in your messaging. That's one. Then two is opening loops. And three is, I think the big theme that we've gone over is these incremental increases to your sales rate that have a compounding effect on a closed loop of budget in, revenue up, revenue back, budget in, that kind of thing.
Yeah. These are 3 huge follow-up systems that we use every single day with artists and bands. Hopefully you guys can take them, steal them, make them your own, put them into place tomorrow.
Yeah, I would say just boots on the ground practicality wise, like we've said a lot of stuff and it's not easy to implement if you're completely green to it. I would look through the podcast episodes. We have a pretty good search feature on the podcast page. So entrepreneur.io/podcasts. And you can go there and you can search and try to find more info about E-Series, A-Series, and Abandoned Cart. You can learn, skill up. We have trainings on this subject. Email marketing for musicians is one of them. I believe that we implicate follow-up series in several other places as well. And then like first implementation for you, hey, I don't have an online store. Great. Let's just do an E-Series. Do you have somewhere where people sign up? Okay, well, one, can we ensure that sign up offer is valuable? If it's currently just get updates, let's fix that. Then can we implement an E-Series that delivers on that value? And if you can do that, that's already a major change to what you're doing.
Yeah. And then once you have a store in place, you can build Abandoned Cart. You can build post-purchase workflows and really just customize them to you, tweak them over time, swap offers in and out, test them, get creative with the way that you talk to your fans, make them feel good. It's really where like the creativity comes into play with this is what can you do to make your fans feel like every action that they take with you is you're one-upping them. Every time they do something, you're doing something even cooler. And the more you can do that, the better.
Yeah, you should never be at the disadvantage of your fans having given you more value than you've given them.
100%. I hope you guys dug this episode. I hope this is helpful. This was fun, sir. Thanks for diving into it with me, man.
Hell yeah.
We'll catch you guys next time on Creative Juice. Go follow up with those fans. Peace.
Can y'all really feel the East Coast?